somebody came to me and they're like, well, you guys are thriving, but you're just kind of lucky you have this staff. And I was like, yeah, that staff didn't build itself. Right. I'm sure, winning coaches would say they're just lucky that they just recruited those players, right? And they just showed up and they didn't get developed. Right. So that's a little offensive to me. Right. So, but I think details in every single thing matters inside of the business. We build large airports. We're building the Pentagon's largest project ever built to date that's going to protect this country. We take those things seriously. And that's what I tell people about coming to work at GMF. Steel may not always be the sexiest thing in the world, but we build really awesome projects and we get to work with great people every single
day. Andy, thanks for joining us today on the podcast. Really appreciate your time. For those that don't know, your company, GMF Steel, is actually doing the work in the stadium that we're sitting in, obviously Doak Campbell, and also the new Dunlap football facility. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But really, I just wanted to open up with, just tell us your story, kind of where you're from, how you got to Florida State, and a little bit about you.
Yeah, so born and raised in Lakeland. Grew up Florida State fan. Kind of an interesting story. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So growing up, my parents liked sports. My mom in particular, my dad's family's from Georgia, so he kind of liked the Bulldogs, but wasn't like a big thing inside of our family. So I remember my mother threw for me a surprise 13th birthday party, and I didn't, obviously surprised, I didn't know anything about it. But one of my friends came up to me and he said, "Do you like Florida State or Florida?" I'm like, "I don't know that I know," right? So that was in the summer. Going in, finishing up my 8th grade, going in 9th grade. And so going into that fall, I really just started watching college football because I had to figure out who I liked. Right. And just really loved Florida State. Loved Coach Bowden, loved the war chant. And then we got an opportunity that same year so I'm sitting, just watching college football. And so my parents kind of were like, okay, he really likes Florida State. And so we got some tickets and we came up here. So I went to my first game in 1989.
That's awesome. So when I visited your plant and took the tour, you were remodeling, but one of the things that really piqued my interest is you spend a lot of time in training and development for the trades. So you have a welding school that you put inside your company to grow that for the obviously for your company, but also for that profession. Tell us a little bit about just training and development overall.
Yeah, so I would say we probably have 100 office staff, and then the rest of it are trades. So we probably have another probably 70 in the plant, and then we have 200 plus. I think we have 250, 260 right now in the field, and kind of spread all over. Spread out the southeast. And really, where it started is that we have the only non-union apprenticeship program in the state of Florida for steel.
Oh wow!
And so we've had that. I think we're about to have our first cohort. So we're going into year 4 right now. So our first graduating class will be this summer. And then through that, we just that was kind of a little bit of a leap of faith because there's no real funding for it. It's not like you're getting funding from the state. There's no tax breaks. Now I do come to Tallahassee and I do give my feedback on that.
Right.
But we just were like, kind of that same thing, talking about what I learned in 2008. We know investing in our people is going to pay dividends. And so again, took a leap of faith, created this apprenticeship program, hired instructors, and really, we have a school that's off campus right now that we we pay for. And so we started with the apprenticeship program, and so we had to go through the state of Florida. So we have a Department of Education accreditation. So same way that any other school is accredited, so are we, which is neat.
Yeah.
And then from that, welding is part of the ironworker apprenticeship program. But because our plant is primarily welders, that's the biggest thing that we employ. We're like, we need to take what we've learned from the ironworker apprenticeship program and let's scale it up. And so I think what you guys were seeing, we were in the process. So we're adding about 22,000 more square feet of office right now, but then we're converting some areas that were, some warehouse space into like a full-blown welding school.
Right.
And so through that, we're using the same NCCER, which is the curriculum that we use, which is the U.S. Department of Labor backed. So we use that curriculum, and we're using it specifically for welding in the weld school. But then also our ironworker apprenticeship program, when they're doing welding, they can use the same facility. But one thing that I think is going to be really interesting, that's kind of a beta test for us, is that we we go out to a lot of the high schools and we have a big career fair every year. And so I think we just finished the third or fourth one that we've had. And so what we've learned is we'll reach out to both in Polk and Hillsborough County to the schools, and like they get a ton of interest, but they weren't coming. And we're like, why aren't you coming? And they're like, we don't have funding for buses.
Oh, wow.
So we paid the funding this year. And we got some of our vendors who were going to show up at this career fair and kind of help chip in, but we ended up having over 500 kids show up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So while we have all this captive audience, so we have weld simulators as well as just the welding booth. So we had a sign-up sheet, and we're like free welding classes this summer, high school students.
Wow.
And so we're going to beta test that this summer. We have 85 kids signed up.
Oh,
for
that's
it right
awesome.
now. So that's a good way too for, I think with young, there's multiple things here that that I think we can achieve, but there'll be a lot that we learn. But one, I think young people that have a skill gives them confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they don't ever go into the steel industry or become a welder, I think the fact that we're going to offer free classes that they can come in and learn a skill, I think everybody wants to feel important to us. And I have this skill that I've learned. And if you can kind of go to your friends and be like, oh, I know how to weld. Now, whether or not they're a welder or they've been in there burning rods, I still think it gives confidence. And so I think that's just a good community outreach.
Yeah.
But then I think also, too, it allows us to get people, because like I said, I grew up around blue-collar workers, but I didn't necessarily grow up around construction.
Right.
And so I think giving people the opportunity to have, a pathway into construction and that we're opening it up to the community, I think it gives us an opportunity to kind of tell the story and show those career opportunities, because the neat thing about the trades that's going on culturally, and this is why I come to Tallahassee quite a bit to come speak, legislators are calling me all the time, because it's like, you guys actually have an apprenticeship program, you're a trade organization, and you're turning the trades and construction from jobs into careers.
That's awesome.
And I think it gives us that opportunity to kind of share that vision for young people. And it's a great recruiting tool, because we'll come in, give them free welding classes, and if they enjoy it, then it gives them an opportunity to say, do you want to come join our apprenticeship program?
Yeah,
and
it's a talent pool. That's great.
So we're trying that this summer. So we're excited about that.
It's also for the community of Lakeland and Polk County. I mean, it's obviously you're creating jobs as well. I mean, 400 people. I mean, that's a boom to the local economy for employment. So that's really kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
So now with Florida State today, where you are, obviously you're on the Seminole Boosters board. We lean on you heavily. Just for the record, we talk about this. You're doing the steel work here. You excused yourself from all voting as we did that, which we would make sure we do the correct way. But what other jobs you're doing? I want to hear kind of what your involvement is with Florida State beyond boosters. Right. You can talk about Seminole Boosters as well. With the business school and other things, but also what jobs you've worked on campus. Yeah,
so we've done very little here outside the university for that kind of very reason, is that, when we started to bid on some of these bigger projects, that we went through just, multiple layers to make sure, because really what it came down to, as long as you guys can't hire yourself.
Right.
Because we are, I built University of Florida's baseball stadium. I just was awarded USF's football stadium. I am the stadium guy in the state of Florida. I just so happen to sit on the boosters too. Right. So I think it was, and we were already working with Manhattan Whiting Turner. These are already clients of mine. And so that was just a natural transition. But when the project came up, I called you guys. I'm like, hey, do I need to step off the board? Because we're going after these jobs.
Right.
And if I need to, and so I was appreciate you guys went through and were like, let us vet that out. Came back, we're like, no, you guys are good, because you have no say on who the GCs are, so you can't hire yourself. So this is really the first major projects that we've done here. And I think one of the things that I am working on here, and I think you've heard me say this to Michael and to the president and Peter, Florida State has great branding throughout the entire country, and so many of these big general contractors would love nothing more to come here and build projects. It's interesting to me, coming from the large commercial side, that Tallahassee is a little bit insulated, and I think Florida State in general has really leaned heavily on their local contractors, and there's some amazing local guys here. But a lot of times it's just when you're building $200+ million projects, sometimes you need some of those guys that have that resume to go do that and have that depth of resources. Because if you're only pulling from subs in the Panhandle, that's a pretty limited area versus if you're pulling subs throughout the Southeast, because that's like us. Like we work the entire Southeast. I mean, we have guys from Miami to North Carolina today. As far over to Texas. I mean, that's kind of the area we cover. And there's other big trade guys like us. So I think it is interesting to see that some of the bigger GCs are coming in. But because of that, because most of the work that was being done here was being leaned on by more local contractors, we just weren't getting a ton of opportunities.
Gotcha.
And the great thing is, I think even you helped me with this introduction, but even the guys at Culpeper, College of Business, which I gave a pretty good chunk of money to. I didn't get a chance to bid it. So talked to Dean Hartline about it, like, that might sting a little bit.
Right.
But it was fun and was able to, meet and, get to know Chris really well over there, and great guy. So I think we'll get those opportunities moving forward. But it's just, Tallahassee's been a little bit of a hard nut to crack because it has been a lot of kind of local GCs, and they kind of had their sub base, and they weren't always super interested in going outside of that. So we're happy that some of this is being opened up. These are massive projects. They're massive projects anywhere in the country. And so I think it lends itself that some of the bigger, more national or regional firms should get those opportunities. Not to say that they should get all the work. That should be an open, competitive process for that. But that has helped us get in because we already have relationships with these more national GCs.
It also gives you a very unique perspective on the question I get every single day is, are we going to be done?
Right.
And, with the joint venture with Manhattan Culpeper on the stadium, and then Whiting Turner on the football facility. And, as we've said, we're going to be ready for the football season, and we'll be ready at the end of August on the football facility. So I appreciate your help with that. So as we wrap up, kind of this whole talk about leadership, what are 2 or 3 things that as you look back or you mentor kids today, or you actually have mentors that you rely on, what are some things that you focus on from a leadership standpoint?
I think that's constantly evolving, but I would say, as I said here today, I think you've got to be willing to work shoulder to shoulder with your team. I think you have to have this unwavering just approach to excellence, and you have to be willing to have hard conversations regarding excellence, because really you're not helping anybody. You're not helping the organization. You're not helping the development of that person if you're going to enable.
Right.
And then I would say too is you've really got to be bought in on coaching and teaching.
Yeah.
And I think coaching and teaching are 2 different things, because as growing up you have coaches, how they teach and develop is different than maybe somebody in a classroom. And so I think you've got to have the ability to do both. Being a former athlete, I probably coach more than I teach. But I also tell my staff too, we're going through some just enhancements inside of some processes in the company right now. And I've told some of my executive team, you need to get out of the box, you need to go coach on the field.
Right.
Because you're frustrated by what's going on, but you need to get down there and you need to be shoulder to shoulder with them, because that's not micromanaging.
Right.
Because sometimes I think people confuse micromanaging versus intense coaching and like being in the trenches. But it's and I use sports a lot in leadership analogies. But you go over here and you look at Coach Norvell or you look at Coach Link or something. They're on the field all day, every day. And they're going through the most minute details. And I tell people too, get bent out of shape by little details. People understand, it's like, why are you so bent out of shape about this? I'm like, because if you continue to cut these corners, that's going to lead itself into a big problem.
Right.
And so if we're just going to hyper focus on the little details, doing simple well on the front side, we're not going to allow ourselves. We can manage that risk that we're going to allow ourselves to start cutting corners. And
awesome.
I think that's probably the biggest thing right now is just, and part of that is part of our development into our leadership program. And this is not me, this is what the psychologists tell me, but we follow the observe, do, teach, right? Observe, you're going to gain about 20% of the knowledge. Do, you're going to gain about 50%, but teaching it, you learn 90%. And so if part of people's development, part of their KPIs into leadership is that within the first year, once they kind of clear that first year hurdle, and then the next young group of folks are coming in, we're telling them, you've got to teach them what you've learned in the last year, because that's going to help galvanize that with you. And it's also, we're also able to kind of watch and see who teaches well, who leads well, you know, and who wants, and because I'm completely fine with this, but you're going to have your natural born leaders, and then you're going to have your folks that want to be your industry experts that want to kind of sit in their office and grind. And you have to have both. But you can start kind of seeing which way people are going to naturally gravitate. Do they enjoy the leadership, or do they do it because we tell them they have to? You know, and so I think for that, I'd rather kind of know what people's strengths are going to be before I don't ever want to Peter principle somebody where it's like, I'm going to promote them and then all of a sudden realize they can't lead.
They can't do it.
And so we want to make sure that we have proof of concept before we actually give them the title.
So as you talk about cutting corners, how does that play out in your business in a literal sense? And you could apply it to the stadium here. Yeah.
So, I mean, details matter. And so every year I have these slogans. Last year's was details matter, we're not lucky. And that came from, because it was interesting. Somebody came to me and they're like, well, you know, you guys are thriving, but you're just kind of lucky you have this staff. And I was like, okay, that staff didn't build itself. You know, I'm sure, you know, winning coaches would say they're just lucky that they just recruited those players, right? And they just showed up and they didn't get developed. So that's a little offensive to me. So, but I think details in every single thing matters inside of a business. And then, you know, obviously specifically for us, because we build large structures that are going to, you know, house, you know, 75,000 people. You know, we build large airports. We're building the Pentagon's largest project ever built to date that's going to protect this country. We take those things seriously. And that's what I tell people about coming to work at GMF. Steel may not always be the sexiest thing in the world, but we build really awesome projects and we get to work with great people every single day. And so, but when it comes to building it, like, you know, the quality that we put into things, right? And so I think when you're talking about anything construction-wise, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so, you know, when we're looking at just the overall quality of our product that we're putting out there, we're constantly looking at every facet that goes into that. From, you know, we just brought in a new, you know, laser. I think you guys got to see that. And so we've had lasers in the past, but just as that technology changes and we can leverage new technology to make sure that we're having the best efficiency and the best quality and the best safety. I mean, that's what every contractor is looking for. But I think that overall approach to just, you know, a pursuit of excellence in every single thing is going to come out in the product that you're putting together. And obviously when we're building structures like this, if we didn't have that same culture of just excellence at a corporate level, how can we expect our guys in the field or in our plant to have that same level of quality? So to me, it's a mindset, and it's not, you know, we want that to be part of our culture, and we want to make sure that that's coming from the top every single day. And then we practice leadership through multiplication. And what I mean by that is that it's really hard for me to develop 400 people.
Right.
So I can develop 4 or 5 really well, and then those 4 or 5 develop 4 or 5. And then eventually you're having that same message, that same culture be pushed down from a centralized location. And that's the way that we lead the business. And so we like that collaboration. But if we don't have that just at the very top, and it's not something I say, it's something I believe.
Correct.
And it's not only I believe it because it's right and because I have to keep people safe when I build these structures, but it's our overall just approach to the business. And we also know too, if you have that approach to excellence, right? Like, you're never going to achieve a perfection, but if you continue to pursue perfection, you know, you can catch excellence. And that's so, but we also know too, it's profitable.
Right.
Like I really enjoy what I do, but I'm here to make money, right? And so, but we also know that when you have that approach to just quality and excellence, your clients see it. Like, it helps with your branding. And our goal is that we don't want to sell the job at bid day. We want the job sold before the bids even come out. Because it's like, oh, if we can get GMF on our job, then we know we're going to have the best quality. We know their management team. We know their safety is going to be on par. And we know their schedule is going to impact. And we don't have to manage them. They're the steel experts that manage themselves. So I think there's a lot of facets inside of just this approach to just quality in general. But I think that through that, we see more profit. We've seen the company grow significantly. And so we're never going to change our stripes on who we are as an organization.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to from an employee standpoint, expectations. They know what they are; they're
100%.
not surprised. So
Yes.
that's a really good point. So tell me about a normal day for you, if there is such a thing. I know many times in leadership it changes by the day, but generally, like what is your day like? Are you an early riser and work out? What is your day like?
Yeah, so I would say over the last 30 years of working professionally, that has looked significantly different. When I was younger, I woke up at 4:30, had babies, sleep with one, give the wife the shift change, ran on very few hours, wake up, pick up workers, take them to a job site, get a job built, drop them back off, go home, rock babies, do it all over again. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
Now at almost 50, I'm like really into my health. Supposedly I have diabetes, which I don't believe. I think I can fix it with diet and exercise. And so that's really just kind of, I like challenges. And so I have really just made fitness, what I eat, a big piece and part of like, it's not something I do, it's who I am.
Right.
And so, I wake up every day, probably, 6 to 6:30 on average. So not super early.
Right.
Days I have to take my kids to school like 5:45. But I'm in the gym pretty much at least 5 days a week. And if I'm not in the gym, then I'm doing some type of either just HIIT training or walking. It helps keep my mind really crisp. I like that my joints don't hurt because I'm constantly putting muscle on. And then I'm really into just whole foods. I don't eat junk. And so from that, like I've really been able to see that at, again, almost 50 years old, like, I can still run, I lift heavy, I like to keep myself in shape. But then from that, I know that, the body's going to fuel the mind, and I need my mind as sharp as it can possibly be. And so through that too, like we've really kind of pushed this fitness initiative at work.
Oh, wow.
And I was actually on the plane ride up talking to some of my other staff came up here today because they were going to come up and look at the job since the plane was coming up. And we were talking about, should we bring on like a full-time trainer to do nutrition and do different things like that? Because I don't love our healthcare system, but so I'm really just into just like fitness and wellness and just, how those things and how quality food and a quality nutrition can really help combat some things. So that's something, and I love to research in general. So that's a big piece and part of what I do. I also try to carve out some thinking time as well. I think that's important because and if I will allow this to happen, because I have an executive assistant who, there's a central repository for meeting requests with me. And so if I'm not careful, I can literally have, what I call like a schedule desert, where if I just let that thing go wild, I'll literally have a meeting from 9 to 6 every single day. And the problem is that who's thinking, who's innovating, who's leading. So I think as a leader, we have to make sure that we have proper access to us, but we just don't have just this unfettered access because people are going to just kind of suck all your energy out of you.
Right.
So I like to get up in the morning. I like to lift. I like to have a couple days a week where I don't really start taking meetings till about 11. And it gives me an opportunity to kind of think and clear my mind. And then from there, I have really purposeful scheduled meetings. Like we wrote a procedure on how meetings should be ran.
Oh, wow.
And then that way too, it's just, I would see it. Like people would love to schedule a meeting and they just put everybody and their brother on it, and you walk in and people are sitting in there and there's nothing going on. So I think I also try to model and then teach how an effective meeting can happen. And so I do that. I try to meet with my staff on a consistent basis. And then I have parking lot review time, every day. And I teach a scheduling mechanism that's just, kind of self-developed internally, where all you data dump, at least once a day. And I like to see people do it twice a day, or as things pop up, and I call it the parking lot, like put everything in your parking lot. And then at the end of the day, you want to parse that out. And so you parse it into a to-do bucket, which then means that's going to get done this week. And then if it's on your to-do list, then you go right to your calendar and you schedule it, right? It's just not there like, I'll get to it. It's like, no, Tuesday at 9, I'm doing this. And it's, it's got a 30-minute task. I'm going to carve out 30 minutes. Parking lot items are stuff you want to get in the next month, and then anything past the month you put on a project list. And so teaching people to constantly go through that, so that way we're just efficient with our time. Inefficiency is offensive to me, and so I try to model and then internally develop and then teach those, and then look at outside, sources as well too. And then from that, kind of end of the day, like right now it's high school baseball. My son's a high school baseball player, which is really important to me. He's only going to have so many high school games. So that's why I flew up today, and why I'm flying back this afternoon, and we'll have to call in for a meeting tomorrow. He has games tonight and tomorrow, and so just making sure I spend quality time with my children. My two older kids are graduated high school and off. My oldest daughter graduated Florida State. She works for the business now. And I think when you're a younger adult and a younger parent, you kind of think these kids are going to be around forever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden one day they start leaving. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Did I squeeze every ounce of that out? And so I'm just trying to make sure, and I think I did. I didn't miss very much.
Right.
But I think I'm right now too. Is I'm trying to squeeze every ounce of that. With my two kids that are still at home, and then also too, one thing I would talk about is that we have a foundation, and our big mission through the foundation is Travel Ball Church. And so again, as a ball player and a dad of 4 athletes that play travel sports year round, we like to go to church on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And so there was never a church option, and so we started a mission called Travel Ball Church. And so we have been hiring pastors full-time for the foundation, and right now we're just in Central Florida, but every Saturday and Sunday they're at some tournament, whether it's baseball, softball, volleyball, and we do church service. And it's really starting. We've only been doing it about a year, and but it's been really wildly accepted, to the point now we have people wanting to donate money to it, and we didn't set it up for that, but we can now kind of see the vision that whether we continue to hire pastors or there's other chapters that open up, or churches want to adopt it, we think that that's important. So I like to also be involved with that as well. So I think kind of my day-to-day is I want to try to take a step back, be very, very purposeful in where I'm investing my energy, and making sure that I'm not just too heavy in one area or not.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for everything. And every time we do one of these, I learn something. I feel like I've known you before, but even through this, I got to know you better today. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts from you?
No, I'm excited about where we're at, as a university and a program. I've been involved with the boosters probably going back 17 years, maybe 15 years. And so, the boosters had this kind of like junior board years ago that I got invited to, kind of my early 30s. And then I think like 2010, 2011, I first got invited to sit, on the national board. And I've seen a lot of just changes in leadership and approach. And, I think as a university, again, Tallahassee's kind of insulated, and we always had success here. And so I think we maybe had success, but we didn't realize too that maybe we weren't always doing things the right way, but the way we were doing them worked for us. But unfortunately, I don't think they were scalable. And so I think some of the challenges we've seen is because we had to maybe learn some of those lessons the hard way. And I think with the current leadership team that we have, that you've got people that are like myself, went to school here, been involved with the university and athletics and the boosters, and then you've got folks like yourself that are coming in from other places, and you're bringing other knowledge, but then also too collectively we're building additional knowledge and wisdom together. I think we got a really good leadership team, and I think everybody's pulling the chain in the same direction right now. So I'm excited about just Florida State as a university in general and our athletics, and then what we're doing on the boosters as well. Because I know everybody that's here is smart, they're committed, and they're collaborative. And I think just knowing how business works and seeing successes with that, even though we may not always be seeing the results we want, I know the process that we're following leads to results, so I'm excited about the future.
No, that's great. Well, I appreciate your time, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, sir.